As all of you know, we have at least 60 Australians fighting in the Middle East with terrorist groups, principally the ISIL movement. We have at least 100 Australians supporting with funding and recruitment terrorist groups, principally the ISIL movement. ISIL has effectively declared war on the world, and you've all heard the murderous threats that leading ISIL spokesmen have uttered against Australia and Australians. The world is responding, as is demonstrated by the UN Security Council resolution unanimously carried a week ago against foreign fighters fighting with ISIL overseas. As you know, the United States, in coalition with Saudi Arabia, Jordan, the UAE, Bahrain and Qatar, has launched airstrikes against ISIL in Syria. As you also know, the United States, in coalition with the United Kingdom and France, has launched airstrikes against ISIL in Iraq. Earlier this week, Royal Australian Air Force aircraft began flying support missions in Iraq. Today, Cabinet has authorised Australian airstrikes in Iraq at the request of the Iraqi government and in support of the Iraqi government. Also, subject to final legal documentation, Cabinet has authorised the deployment of Australian Special Forces into Iraq to advise and assist Iraqi forces. I want to stress that only Iraq can defeat ISIL, but Iraq shouldn't be alone, and as far as Australia and our allies are concerned, Iraq won't be alone. I have to warn that this deployment to Iraq could be quite lengthy, certainly months rather than weeks. I want to reassure the Australian people that it will be as long as it needs to be, but as short as it possibly can be. I also need to warn the Australian people that this is a dangerous mission. It is a dangerous mission, but I'm confident that the CDF has put in place all possible measures to minimise risk. It is an essentially humanitarian mission. Yes, it is a combat deployment, but it is an essentially humanitarian mission to protect the people of Iraq and ultimately the people of Australia from the murderous rage of the ISIL death cult. ISIL must be disrupted and degraded. ISIL must be disrupted and degraded at home and abroad, so it is absolutely in Australia's national interests that this mission go ahead. I should say that a few moments ago I spoke to Bill Shorten, the Leader of the Opposition. He indicated to me his full support of the decisions that the government has taken this morning. I have been ensuring that the Leader of the Opposition has been kept fully briefed throughout the development of this deployment to Iraq. I'm grateful for the support that we've received from the opposition in this matter. It is good that when it comes to national security, both government and opposition should stand shoulder to shoulder, and that's exactly what's happened here. I'm going to ask the Defence Minister, David Johnson, to add to these remarks, and then obviously I'll ask the Chief of the Defence Force to say something as well.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Last week I was in the Middle East and in Baghdad to see the establishment in the Middle East of our forces as they have prepared to participate in the US-led coalition in Iraq. Can I tell you that the skill, commitment and professionalism of our uniformed personnel going forward is simply first class. They will do a very good job for us. Now, we have gone forward very carefully, in a very prudent way, We have engaged with the government in Baghdad, and I can tell you that the new Prime Minister in Baghdad, and indeed the Iraqi ambassador in Australia, is very gratefully welcoming of our participation in this coalition. We have a good relationship with the government in Baghdad. I'm certain that all Australians can be very, very proud of what the Australian Defence Force will do in coming weeks.
Thank you, Minister. This deployment so far has been a significant achievement for the Australian Defence Force. From a relatively standing start, we've packed up an air task group, a potent air task group. We moved at 12,000 kilometres. Also moved a commando unit over in that time as well, with all their supporting equipment. The team is well trained, they're well equipped, they're well prepared. The air task group's been flying supporting missions and some training missions over Iraq for the last couple of days, and we're ready to get on with the job.